Welcome to LegacyCast, your source for hearing from top influencers, industry experts, and successful business owners who are telling their unique story about life, values, goals, business strategies, and the various causes they are so passionate about. Future generations will come to be impacted by what is happening today, whether positive or negative, and our mission is to focus on what is going to affect change for the better. Hosted each weekday by James Snow, a former U.S. Army combat medic, now founder and principal advisor of James Advisors Group, a full-service financial planning firm in North Texas. This is LegacyCast. Welcome, LegacyCast listeners. This is your host, James Snow, coming to you from the North Texas LegacyCast bunker up here. And we're enjoying this heat up here in North Texas. And so just to kind of feel a little bit cooler, I wanted to speak with a good friend of mine up in the northwestern part of the U.S., out in Oregon, Eric Mitchell. A lot of you people that are in the veteran circle, you'll know Eric from his LifeFlip Media. And it just, it's a pleasure and honor to have Eric up in here and, be able to pick his brain a little bit about, what his idea of legacy is, and then find out, what's going on in his world. Because, the things that we're doing today, are going to resonate, through the generations. And so, it's not just, a financial conversation, as I always say. It's more about you telling your story your way, so that the generations that are going to come behind us get to know, really who you are and what you care about, what you're passionate about, the things that you're involved in. And so, that's kind of the stuff that we talk about here. And, without any further delay, I'd like to welcome Eric into the program. Thanks for being here, Eric.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure. And I always look at the weather map during the summers living up here in the Pacific Northwest and go, wow, I'm glad I'm not in Texas. I just avoid the Texas area until like October. I've learned my last visit was the beginning of June, and I will not return until.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I think today it's somewhere between 100 and 130. It's a bit like being over in the sandbox. So it's pretty brutal.
It's 80. It's 83 outside my window right now, and
oh man,
tomorrow's going to be the 60s. And we have some rain maybe sneaking in here later in the week, so I'm a happy boy.
You suck. I think I'll come and visit.
Yeah, more than welcome. More the better. We have good beer here. So.
Hey. All right, we're going to have to get back on track here now.
Oh, yes.
So, obviously, as the name of the program implies, we do talk about legacies. And as I was mentioning, it's not really a financial conversation as such. A lot of people think, that just because, I'm a financial planner, that's the only kind of legacy. But, oftentimes, it's going to be a societal legacy, what you're doing in your community, or, it's educational, what are you teaching your children, or for those that are educators, their legacy is definitely educational. So when you're thinking about legacy, just the concept of it, Eric, what comes to mind for you?
My kids automatically off the top of my bat, off the top of my head, not top of my bat. It's important to leave that legacy, and I want to teach my kids because my dad growing up, he worked for a big Fortune 500 company, and my kids growing up are watching their dad transition from working from a very large company, a couple large companies, to now owning my own business that I'd like to say were semi-successful, and teaching them all the hard work that goes into doing it. And I think they see that this wasn't. I mean, I like the legacy that I'm able to teach my kids because they see the hard work that goes into it. They see dad working early in the morning, working late, but I still make sure that I work hard, play hard, because I've taught them that real early. And I'm a firm believer in it. So I think that's an important legacy to leave behind. And also, I guess the second tier to that would be making sure also passing that down to, our brothers and sisters, in the veteran world. Because coming out years ago when I did, it was one of the things I was like alone in, Northern California, working in the Silicon Valley. The veteran movement really hasn't caught on. And now I can pass what I learned down to so many people. And that's what I really want to get across to everybody is that, we have a legacy to look out for one another. and it goes down from generation to generation. It still drives me nuts, and this is going to sound like a salty old guy, but it drives me nuts that we have pre and post 9/11, like that whole designator, like somebody's better than the other. And I don't think anybody believes that each other. And I think that's a large mentality of a very big sector of the veteran community, and the mil spouse community looks out for one another. I think it's our job as we all get older to kind of lead the way, because we are seriously the last 10 years, I would say, this is the generation, this group of folks that's leading it now are the ones that are taking us, that can leave it for the guys who are getting out, guys and gals that are getting out in the next few years.
Yeah, and that's totally accurate, because you're mentioning the different groups within the veteran community. Yeah, we're all veterans. So yes, people were in one theater or another, but ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, we're all one and the same. We're cut from the same cloth. We all bleed the same color of green, and so it's there really should not be any further division put in there or any other prejudices, because we're all from the same. And likewise, even for the people that are not not military, the civilians, we have patriots out there that they I still see eye to eye with them, and they understand to some degree what we went through, not to the same full degree, but they certainly had the respect for what we do, and I appreciate that. But again, it's all those divisions that we need to get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always had them. I just think social media really brings them to the surface, right? Everybody has their opinion. I mean, and you really saw it in the last, week, almost a week now, since Senator John McCain passed away. The division there, right? I mean, I think the veteran community actually became tighter around the subject, because we were the ones that are like, that he's a vet no matter what you say. He was a POW for 5 years, and we'll give him that respect. His politics, it's like I told people, I don't care if you liked him or didn't like him. You respect the man. He did 5 years as a POW in Vietnam. And again, it was funny to see it's ironic, right? We talk about looking out for our vets, but here's another Vietnam vet that it's kind of like, it's okay to like bash on the Vietnam vet still. It still happens. So it was kind of ironic, and it was good to see the veteran community really stand up together. It was good to see AMVETs, come out and be like, hey, we need to take care of this is one of our own. Just not lose faith. You may have not liked him as a politician. We're not looking at him as a politician. I think veterans at the end of the day, we look at our achievements as vets, as our current service. Like, what did you do there? I mean, are you going to go tell Dakota Myers he sucks? Hell no. The man's a Medal of Honor recipient. I mean, you may not agree with his politics, but you sure as hell got to respect who he is. So, I mean, it goes for any one of the Medal of Honor recipients, folks with Purple Hearts. At the end of the day, I say you got to respect those guys. I don't care what their politics are. And I think that's the only way we leave a legacy, is to remember our civilian friends, that, hey, if you love our country, obviously loving our military is next. So your single line of defense that you have, so you better like your military. Because if not, if you think about it, like my grandfather used to say before he passed away a few years ago, if you didn't like your military, you'd be goose stepping right now. So let's remember, think about legacy in that terms, right? World War I, World War II.
Sure.
We're all down the line of that, but we've never had a world war. None of us have ever had to do that. We've fought a bunch of people who, they're easy to take out with drones. Could you imagine fighting the Germans these days? That would look pretty scary to me. Or the Japanese. I'm a Marine. We always got to remember our friends over in the Western theater. I know you Army guys, you'd like to remind us about D-Day and, taking Europe. But, anyways, I definitely think legacy is an important. I mean, I love your show because it's based on that, right? Legacy is so many different things that I think people seem to miss what legacy means and how we have a job. It's not today that we're really worried about.
Right.
I mean, we need to worry about the future. I mean, for me, it's different. I have a teenager and an almost teenager, a boy and a girl. So it's a whole different world out there. I mean, the things they're exposed to, I'm a paranoid dad. My kid walks less than a mile to school, but I'm paranoid for that whole walk because I know how crazy the world is.
Right.
You see it. So I want to teach them to be alert, And yeah, you live in a safe environment, but you always got to have your head on a swivel. So I think legacy is important that we pass those down to our kids and to the world and teach people. And I think bringing any attention to what the veteran community, which I think LifeFlip had built LifeFlip around, was showing the veteran and milspouse world to the rest of the mainstream world is very important. So people can learn that there's some amazing veteran brands that are out there that are veteran owned. I mean, a lot of people have no idea, like GoDaddy is was created by a Vietnam veteran, Marine Corps grunt that served in Vietnam. Same thing with FedEx, another Marine. Amazing companies that you use every day, but nobody's like, oh, they're vets. Like, oh, they were created by vets. So I think it's important to bring those up because we have a pretty good reputation. Even Marines, we're good at, besides eating crabs.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you pointed that out because there are so many different companies that now to coin the term legacy. I mean, they're legacy companies now because they're not going away anytime soon, and so they're postured for at least another generation, if not beyond that. And that kind of leads me to the next direction that I was going to go with you, Eric, is when we're putting together these strategies and these ideas for ourselves, either on a personal level or business level. Would you say yes or no that it's an important consideration that people really expend a lot of energy on what that legacy is going to look like even before they execute it?
I would say yes. I think it's important that you not just look right in front of you. I know a lot of us are taught that in our military days is you can't just look right ahead. You got to think about, for every action, there's a reaction and a consequence.
Right.
So I think as you're building a legacy, that's why when you're building a business plan, yeah, it's a pain in the butt to write one out, but you should have one. And it's a blueprint, but you can change it, right? That's why they create erasers or the delete button on your computer. So you could call audibles. I mean, if I was laughing, I save each version of the business plan that I've created for LifeFlip Media, and I laughed. I went back and looked at it the other day just because we're pivoting and doing a cool little couple new projects. And I was laughing. They were on like version 1, but they didn't make the cut to like version 2, 3, or 4. But now, we're on version I think 7. And I go look at it and I laugh. So I'm like, it's funny how I bring them back around because I see the idea. They look like concepts. So you should think about your legacy. And, people always, coming from the startup world, I always believe that what's your 5-year plan, right? And always ask yourself, what's your out? For me, do I want to sell LifeFlip down the road? Where do I want to be in 5 years? I think that's always a plan that you have to see yourself. You want to think successful to be successful.
Yeah. That's totally spot on, Eric, because, I hear so often that there's business owners that they're so excited to get into business and motivated and pumped up and just energized to jump into it, and they jump past that whole planning stage, and they just open the doors wide open. They jump into business, and then maybe 1, 2, 3 years out, they hit that really big hurdle, and are not able to grow and not able to expand, and are wondering why, or even running into some really detrimental things that come up. Excuse me. And so often that's because they didn't have that business plan that you're talking about, and then just reviewing it. You were mentioning on version 7, that's certainly what people should do is constantly look at that thing, because it should be growing with you. And it's not a static object. It's something that should it should be molded and shaped the way that you need it to be. And to be able to be flexible. It's got to be flexible. So from a CEO standpoint, since you do have different business ventures going on your end, from a CEO standpoint, are there a few things that maybe keep you up at night still about your businesses, or are you pretty cool with it?
I don't think you ever rest easy, period, as a CEO. You could be happy about progress, but I think you're always trying to be the ever perfectionist and make tweaks as you go. And I've learned that from some great mentors that I've been able to have in my career as I've come up, and I still have them. And I think one of the things, you're always challenging yourself to be better. So you do keep yourself up at night, challenging yourself. How can we be better? How do we improve? Where can we make a difference and actually make more impact? So those are the things that keep me up at night. It's not so much as, are we good or are we bad? It's more like, how can we improve? How do we get better? How do we reach more? How do we reach more eyeballs? How do I make it so it's more effective for my customers? Because I really want the customer to be the story, not LifeFlip Media and none of those folks. Because people are always like, oh my gosh, you don't get mentioned. And I'm like, I don't care. If my client goes on and is interviewed by somebody and brings me up, that's not doing my job. I don't want us to be the spotlight. They should be the spotlight and not have to worry about, worrying about us. And it's the aspect that we think about. So the things that keep me up at night is making sure that our team has everything they need and to be able to do their job. And I don't like to be a micromanager. So that's one of the things. I mean, I think that my wife will tell you the things that keep me up at night are silly little things, but to me, they're like perfections I need to go fix in the company, whether it be something on our website. I've literally, this week, she'll tell you, I've spent probably way too many hours trying to fix something on our website, but nobody knows because it's really not a big deal, but it drives me nuts. So it's one of those things. I think as a CEO, it's smaller things drive you nuts. I mean, obviously, closing deals and all that is very important, but it's the little things that you always want to be improving. I don't think you ever really messed up.
Yeah, I can totally relate with you. One of my 5 screens here around my office desk here does in fact have my website on it. That I've been doing the same thing. It's just like this one little thing has been bugging me and trying to tweak and tune and get that just the way I need it. So yeah, I can relate with that because I'm ever the perfectionist. Anybody that knows me will tell you that one. So as far as entrepreneurs that are just starting out, you've been around long enough that you've been able to see some, rise and fall. And so what do you think is one of the, or maybe even more than one of the main reasons why new businesses with entrepreneurs are failing, or either that or that they just give up?
I love this question. One of the, I had an advantage. I came out, I started working in the Silicon Valley, and a number that's always stuck in my head and strangely hasn't changed in like almost 10 years is, here's a stat for anyone listening. 90% of all startups fail. 90%. We're talking about startups that get funding failing. And so I've always kept that in my mind as I've started a business. And this is not the first business that I've ever started. And I've failed at 100% of the businesses that I've tried to start before. Like this happens to be one of version like 10, I believe. I'd have to ask my wife. She's the one keeping track. I've tried every bit. I think the biggest thing new entrepreneurs, folks dipping their toe in, is they believe in that get rich quick, right? That's the ever-present fix is, I'm going to come in and I'm going to be ultra successful and I'm going to be the next Richard Branson, right? I'm going to be able to be that successful. And really you have to humble yourself. You're not going to do that. It's going to be hard. And I think that's why so many fail is they get frustrated early in the game that the rise to the top isn't as fast. And it's hard because you look on social media and you see other people and other brands that you're competing with or are in your space and they're just killing it. And you're thinking, I got to do something now to fix it. And like I always tell people, and I say this all the time, is, that version of a product or a competitor that you think which is the one that you're seeing today on social or on their website, that's just an expression of where they were about 2 years ago. So I think that's very true. If I look back at where LifeFlip was 2 years ago, we were nowhere near where we're at today. Our website was horrible. We had zero messaging. Our logo was fugly because I created it. We weren't really playing with production too much. I had decided to walk away from what I love to do, which is editing, graphics, and all that fun stuff. And, I think that's where people get frustrated. I decided to stick it out. It's fun to me is the challenge, but I think you have to do that. And I think also to kind of expand on that is you have to remember, and this is part of the getting frustrated and walking away, is a lot of new entrepreneurs are what Mark Cuban has coined wannapreneurs, right? They still have a full-time job, so they're earning that check, so they're safe. And they're like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, which drives everybody else nuts because you're like, you're not an entrepreneur. You don't have to, you're not paying for medical and you don't have to worry about all these things. Your medical's covered. You get a paycheck even if you don't close the deal this week. It's different. You can go a whole month as an entrepreneur and you could starve to death, lose your house, lose everything. You got a job and your side hustle is keep, side hustle's kind of cool. You've got it there. I think some people they lose interest in it because they don't see. I mean, again, it comes back to quick wins. So I think, the side hustle people, they're not really all the way in. So I don't really even consider them entrepreneurs. I love Mark Cuban calling them entrepreneurs. So that's what I call a lot of them. I'm like, if you have a full-time job, please don't call yourself an entrepreneur because you're not. You don't have to go through any of the struggles. You have it pretty good in life. Please don't tell me that's what you are. So I think that's where a lot of people, I think everybody wants to be successful right away. And I think they look at a lot of brands and want to be just like them.
Yeah, I was reading some studies here recently, as far as, excuse me, businesses that fail. And I was actually surprised to see that the number one reason that one of these studies that caught my eye had mentioned is that people will start a business and there was no market demand for their service or product, and and so it's kind of blew my mind that so many people are just jumping in and they haven't even done the market research to find out if in their geographic area is going to be able to handle it. Number two was number two was running out of capital.
Sorry. The startup guy in me is like, totally know that one. I've watched people get funded. I've brands get $10 million in funding, and next thing I know, they're having an all company paid expense trip to Fiji, and you can bring your spouse, and they're having a company retreat in Fiji. I'm like, and of course everybody's flying like first class, staying in a fine hotel. I'm like, yeah, and you wonder why you ran out of money in less than a year. I mean, to burn through $10 million is pretty incredible when you have a pretty big runway, and then you run out of it when you're blowing, $500,000 on traveling to Fiji. So, I've been blessed that I never worked with a startup that did that. But I do agree, you can run out of money pretty quick.
Yeah, the irony is the scenario that you were mentioning, taking the trips to Fiji. Number 3 on that list was do not have the right people in the business, running the business.
Oh, absolutely.
If people that have charge of the bank account are taking trips to Fiji, well, maybe they shouldn't be the ones in charge of the bank account.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. I remember coming up a couple startups, and the right hire makes the difference between success and not success. And sometimes our CEO would bring in, this big, awesome, just well-established sales leader or a big CMO. And it's not that they were bad people, because they're not. They have amazing careers and amazing chops. But at the end of the day, they weren't right for this business because they were used to. It's funny, when you come from like corporate America to a startup, it's different, right? Two different playing fields. One is everybody jumps in and everybody's paddling in the same boat. In corporate America, it's not that way. You're paddling in your own boat, and usually your boss is getting your recognition, much like the military. But in startup world, it's a little bit different, right? So it's one of those things that I've seen. You have to put the right hires in. That's definitely number 3. Those top 3 are awesome. I would agree with each one of them, and I could think of several companies that have been guilty. Usually they're pretty guilty of all 3 at once. Usually if I watch this, there's only been one exception to that. I've watched one company that they're now publicly traded. I don't want to name drop, but they had like 7 CEOs in their time, and their last one is the one that stuck, and he was actually the first one. We'll figure that one out. The first one came back and took them to IPO world, and they're a unicorn, so they're making good money, but it's hard.
Very true. Very true. So as far as what you've seen in your experience, Eric, what would you say some of the roadblocks are that, if you were to warn somebody starting out, keep your eyes out for these roadblocks?
Don't get in your own way. I think that's a big one. You can mentally get in your own way besides physically getting in your own way. Don't let your mind take over, because you're going to want to, I like the question, but I mean, don't get in your own way is one of the biggest pieces of advice, and that can just take you over. Just getting in your own way. And also, don't ignore that quiet voice that sits inside you. We all have that voice. We have that voice. It's the one that got us here. And that's the voice that we're all going to need to listen to, because that's the voice that's going to take us to the next level. You have to listen to it. Something is something called from you inside to make you go do this. It wasn't like you were just sitting there one day and you're like, crap, I want to go start a business and I'm just going to figure it out and Google it, right? Not going to go GTS that. So you got to follow that voice that's, instead of yourself. And, just remember you have to get good at letting go. I think that's a big takeaway. And it's a different kind of freedom. At the end of the day, I always tell people that it's a completely different angle at freedom. You have to be good at letting go. Some things you're just not going to be able to control. You're going to want to, but again, it goes back to point one. Don't get in your own way. You're going to have to let go of things, right? It's just,
sure.
It's I can go into hiring people too. I mean, Jesus, I can talk about that. That one, if you wanted that point to kind of go on there, is I don't lie to myself and I don't hold on to illusions. That's one of my big, it's like, hire fast, fire fast, hire slow is one of those mottos that you have to do. If you're an up and coming entrepreneur and you're starting a business and you're thinking about hiring people, one, don't think again about hiring people. It's cool. We all have this mission in our hearts that we want to just go hire our friends and family and brothers in arms and all that. And sometimes it's not your best bet. Sometimes you're just like, no, I can do it myself. Don't already be like, I just want to sit back, play video games all day and make other people do it. That's not how it works.
Yep. Spot on there, man. Several good golden nuggets. I'm over here taking notes, so I hope the listeners are too. So kind of the flip side of the roadblock question is what resources have you found that are just really spot on resources that you recommend people take advantage of?
I think you should read. Audible is one of my favorites. As much as I like to put a good book in my hand, as you can tell, right on my desk underneath my Xbox controller, because I use it for the TV, not work. Who does that? But it's my TV. It's how I get the NFL Network, because I watch NFL Good Morning. But books are powerful, right? Those brands, always be learning what you're doing for your business, right? Your vertical. You should be reading monthly. I know some people read weekly. You should. 2 years ago, I read a book a week for a year. That's a lot of books, 52. But definitely be using knowledge. Use the power of Veterati. It's a great resource. I'll name drop Veterati. Get a mentor. Definitely get a mentor. I have mentors. I mentor. I'm a mentee and a mentor. But always have those folks that you should be listening. Always know the job in front of you and behind you.
Sure.
And pay attention to certain things online. For me, personally, I'm a big fan of SaaStr.com. That's SASSTR.com. It's a very startup-y. So when you look at it, if you have a Main Street USA or e-commerce business, you'll probably look at it and go, what the heck? But it's run by a great guy who's a mentor of mine. It's a fabulous blog. It talks about all the frustrations of hiring and building a business from like day one with capital, hiring the right people, when you should hire salespeople. It's very relative just because it looks like it's startup world. Startup world makes a lot of money. They get most of the funding in America, so they're doing something right. So you should also follow it. But always take time to read. I always say an hour a day is what I have scheduled on my calendar, blocked off to really surf certain platforms. Quora is one of my favorites because you can ask questions and never be afraid to ask questions. What a God. The people who don't ask questions kind of drive me nuts because when you wait to the last second, you don't have it. Quora is great for that. Facebook, not so much, but Quora is great. Go into Quora, ask a question, and you'll usually get it answered. There's some incredible people out there that want to answer your question because that's where they sit. So go pick your peers' brains.
Yeah, some good recommendations there. I also do mentoring with Veterati, so that's a great organization there.
Yep, Diana and Daniel are amazing. I love both of those guys to death. Just amazing. And Daniel being a Marine, come on, Diana's just a genius. I mean, they have a great product. Obviously, it's been duplicated by some gigantic brands, so they're doing something right when you're a little brand and you've got big brands copying what you're doing. So you're doing something right.
Yep, that's a fair point there. So as far as your value system or your work ethos, you might say, we're kind of in a unique time in history where people are not as afraid to put their values and their belief systems into their business. it's, before it was kind of like, you keep that separate from business. But today we're starting to inject that a little bit more. Is that something that you do with your business with LifeFlip as far as
Absolutely.
systems? Okay.
Yeah. I put a lot of how I was raised into my business. Family first, obviously.
Right.
But, it's all, I always tell people, I just did a live feed last night on this. You got to be the same person you are running your business as you are outside of your business. You can't live two lives. It's impossible as a business owner, as a true CEO. The best CEOs that I know in America that I've had the pleasure of meeting, they're very authentic. They're the same person outside of work as they are in work. And I think that's what you have to be. And you have to hold those values. And you have to hold your values true. Don't just say it just to say it. You have to go out and do it. And you have to get through a lot of noise. I think one of the big things that I always have told people is there's going to be people out there. I think one of my favorite quotes that's out there is, people may be cheering you now, but they're dying. They're just really dying to boo you too. So I think that's a big thing to remember is don't worry about those folks that are out there. Yeah, they'll cheer you. They'll hate you 1 minute. It's the same thing as sales, right? 0 to hero and hero to zero and no time flat. So I think that's, I hold those mottos true in my head. Don't worry about it. And, don't let people have space. I said this in an interview, I think a couple weeks ago. Don't let people have space up here. If they're not paying for it, they don't get to rate it. So it's a motto that I've held, as an adult growing up, same thing. I tell my kids the same thing. Who cares? Words? Ooh, somebody doesn't like you on Facebook? Don't lose sleep over it. They're not paying you. Who cares? It's Facebook. You can block people. You can turn them off and they mean nothing. They're not your family. If they pay you, then it's different if they don't like you. And even then, it's not that important.
Yeah, I certainly agree 100% there. We put too much value in that, and it becomes head trash. It's stuff that takes up real estate in our head that doesn't belong there, and then we start questioning ourselves because of somebody else. And I could get on a soapbox about that one, but so what's something earlier in your life that you wish you had done? Do you have any, I wouldn't say regrets, but anything that you wish you would have done that you did not do?
No. When I got out, I did what every good Marine does, and I went to go get in law enforcement. Went to the Sacramento Sheriff's Academy. Got done with that. Became a reserve officer. Got frustrated. I got stuck in the jails. That's where they stick you when you're a deputy sheriff and you're a rookie. You spend like 2 years in jail. I didn't like it, and I basically walked away from it. Just like, I'm done playing. I don't want to do this. This isn't fun. I don't know if it was, maybe I was still having some, burn back from being in a uniform of, the military all the time. I think you do reach a point where it's like, yeah, I love the purpose of the military, but the enlisted green weenie games, they get boring and they follow you into life. So you follow into a uniform role, and regret. Maybe I should have stayed in there because I absolutely just love our first responders. But at the end of the day, I always wonder, should I have been a firefighter? Because I'm always enthralled by that. But I don't regret where I'm at now, but maybe if I would have stuck that out a little bit longer. I always hate things that don't work. So perfectionism.
So kind of leaning a little bit more towards the personal end of the spectrum, just a little bit. What hurdles did you have to face when transitioning out of the service? That's obviously something that all of us that have been in, we have our struggles. What kind of hurdles did you face, and how did you handle those?
There was really 0 programs to help with the transition. For me, I think I brought it up earlier, but when I transitioned into the Silicon Valley, and I was working basically saying that you were in the military was a weird thing because they were like, the military? What did you do? How many people did you kill? The normal questions that we all get asked, because that's the second question too. You served. If you say you were in the Army or the Marine Corps, you're guaranteed to get the follow-up question, how many people have you killed? It's just special in our 2 branches that we're disrespected so much that apparently we all kill people. Even chefs. Even the cook is killing people. Everybody's killing people. But the transition is there's no assistance, right? There was literally, you felt like you're on a deserted island, and you have to go figure it out for yourself. that was the hardest part for the transition, is no one really to help you with the job transition. They still do it to this day. They're still lying about how easy it is to get out and have a job. The recruiters are going to bow down to you because on your resume it says you were in the United States Marine Corps, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Whatever branch you were in, you served your country. That technically doesn't really, back in the day, definitely didn't mean much to recruiters. I'm still seeing the same things coming out from a lot of recruiters, is they're not taking those steps to understand what it means. And, being humble. Just because you have a little bit of rank doesn't mean that you're going to walk into a management position in a company. I see that and hear that all the time. I was a couple of months ago talking to a lieutenant colonel, 27 years, United States Marine Corps. And he was struggling with thinking he was going to come out of the Corps and just get into some like senior management position at a global, 2000 company. That's not so. He was like employed, 528, right? He wasn't Lieutenant Colonel blah blah blah,
yeah.
who had all these people working for him. He was just Joe Nobody who had to show up at work. So I think that's one thing. My transition was really, it was devastating. It was hard. There was a lot of depression in it, because showing up, and I remember interview after interview being told no, and I finally stopped telling people I was in to get a job. I put down that I went to college. And I would bring it up, and they're like, "So what did you do for the last, several years?" I was like, "I was in the military, and I want to work." And that's how I got into tech, was an entry level job. But I wasn't getting anywhere saying I was in the military. It just meant nothing. So the recruiters really didn't care. So I went to a temp agency, got a full-time job, a job I spent several years at. So worked out well.
Yeah, my transition very similar. Early 90s, is like when you got out, is no services there. So they cut you loose, slap you on the butt, send you on your way, and that was pretty much it.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yeah. So Now, when you were starting LifeFlip Media, kind of talk me through how you got started on that. Where did that come from?
Awesome. I probably mentioned way too many times, besides saying I'm a Marine one too many times. Spent a lot of years working in tech. We reached a point where we were done spending our time at the last company that acquired us. So all of my senior leadership had left to kind of go on their own way. So I seriously contemplated, how am I going to make a difference? What am I going to do? I don't want to be here by myself. It's weird. Everybody I hung out with, went to lunch with, and now they were all gone and they were new faces. You know how it is when you're in the fleet, you're like the same way. You don't want new faces. So I sat down, started jotting down a business plan, coming up with an idea. Started off as a consultant doing, PR and media and digital marketing as a consultant for really small startups. And saw that we were gaining some traction there, and then turned it into LifeFlip Media, where I went, grabbed a buddy of mine who I had been mentoring and said, "Hey, you want to run our social media?" And started doing that and turned it into what it is today. A lot of conversations, a lot of false starts, as I like to say, a lot of times as a consultant, and then turned it into the veteran side. When I sat there, I saw a great article. I believe it was a Forbes article or an Inc. article where I had the top 25 veteran businesses in America. I think it was like 2-3 years ago. And I looked at that and I said, I want to work with those folks. I bet I can help them. And I started down from the top of the list. And I've ended up working with quite a few of them on that list. And it's been great. And it's come full circle where we're now back working with a lot of tech companies and working with a lot of Fortune 500 companies. So it's been funny. I started off wanting to get away from that, started working with veterans, and have circled right back around. So it's pretty cool because now we're working with them to help them understand the veteran business and really be the go-between and the intermediary for them to go in between. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's an important space because they don't speak our lingo and we don't want to speak theirs. And so, having someone in between is certainly a valuable resource. Mm-hmm. So, Ultimately, what compelled you to go into media, though? Was that just sort of a?
I love the challenge of it. It's really unique. It's hard. If you've ever been in sales and you get told no a lot, welcome to media. It's even worse because you could pitch every day and get told no. I mean, I spent 2.5 years calling networks every week, getting told no, and then I finally got a break and was able to start putting people on, which was amazing. I remember the day that it happened, and now they call me when they want people on. And but yeah, media, I just always found the challenge in it. I love marketing. I've spoken at many conferences, and that's fun. And I love digital marketing, and I love talking about it and social media and how to use paid media. Marketing is always fun, but putting people in the media is cool because the power of media, it takes it back to those original layers of what makes marketing fun. So to me, media, PR, marketing, they're all one under that, and I combine them into sales because I'm always a sales guy. And you put all those together. And marketing is a constant, pitching media sucks. It's hard. You get told no a lot. You're not interested. And try pitching veteran brands to the media. Half the time they don't want to talk to you because, oh, you're too violent. Those people are violent. Or they go look at their Facebook and they won't run ads on them. Because, the stuff they put on Facebook. So it's a lot of teaching people, hey, you can't put that on there. And it becomes very political. I try to stay out of that because where I sit politically, I don't like to be involved in it. My grandfather always taught me, stay out of politics and religion when you're in a public space. So apparently Facebook hasn't been given that briefing from my grandfather. Unfortunately, he passed before Facebook. If he was around, I'm sure he would be that old guy on there like, y'all violating like the code from back in the day. Like you're not supposed to talk about these two things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can totally relate with that one. And I love to break them also. So sometimes I'll talk religion and politics on Facebook, but hey.
I try not to.
I probably should get a lot less arguments started. Is there a profession other than what you're currently doing that you'd like to try out sometime?
No, I'm too old now. I don't want to do it. No, nothing else. Nothing. No. I'm too old now. I don't want to do anything else. I like this. Cool. I'm happy on my side of that. Yeah.
So if you're kind of thinking about your character traits, what would you say your greatest strength is, Eric?
I have the gift of gab. I think anybody who knows me will say that. I can talk to anybody. I am not afraid to talk to just about anybody. I love talking to people. Talk forever. I have to remind myself. I have a note when I'm being interviewed for like networks. I actually have a note on my desk that says "Shut up, dummy," because I should answer. You should answer. If you're ever talking to the media, you should always have 30-second answers. I usually fail. Podcasts, I fail miserably. I talk for like 5 straight minutes. That's why you're interviewing me, right? That's why it's a podcast. It's not a live interview. Live interview of 2 minutes. So, yes.
Yeah, you have like a whole hour to gab, so that's cool. So what would you say your greatest weakness is then?
Doubt, self-doubt. It's always doubting like my strength. Like, is this the right way? It's like this amazing, it like overtakes you, right? You're always afraid to fail. And instead of believing in what you're doing, sometimes you're like, crap, this is all going to go away. And instead of having like faith and having complete faith in yourself, you can doubt yourself. And sometimes I let that take up some space inside my head that it shouldn't be there. It's something that I'm working on. Taking a meditation. I do yoga. Go ahead, make fun of me. But those are all things to kind of get out of my own head. I think I spend too much time talking about it. So some things I've cut back on are being on Facebook. I think a lot of it's too much social media. And, the quick fix for me has been spending more time with my family. So that's what I do. I spend a lot of time doing that or reading. That's why I actually have hardcore books now. Like I can physically touch them because I put my phone down, right? Because if you have Audible or a Kindle, you're still holding your iPad. What are you going to do when you're reading? All of a sudden you get a notification. And you're like, ooh, I need to go see. Then you put a book in there. There's no notifications.
That's true. So is there a special place that you go to get your ideas? to your brainstorming?
It's going to sound funny, but it's true. It's called a 5-mile run. I run several times a week. And when I'm on my run, I think the best because I turn off all notifications. I don't have my phone with me when I run. And I come back with great ideas. And I've come up with almost every article I've ever written has come from a run. But yeah, it's like my place of solitude. Nobody can bug me. And, I used to hate running. Now I like it. I've dropped about 50 pounds this year because of it, which I'm happy about.
Excellent.
But running is key.
Excellent. And congratulations on the weight loss there. That's awesome. I need to do that myself. So if you're describing at a very high level what your role is within your business, how would you describe that?
That's a good question. I would say that I run our sales side of the house. I run off my strength. I put all of our team is basically placed where their strengths are at, and everybody kind of stays in their lane. Everybody helps out when they need to. But my strengths are sales and marketing and graphic design. I'm really good with those things. And then everybody else kind of fills in the gaps. Everybody stays in their own lane. I guess we're very siloed when you're not supposed to be. But for us, it works very well because we're lean and mean, which is what I like. And I do everything. There's 0 jobs in the company that I'm afraid to do. I believe you have to lead from the front and be able to do every job inside your company. So that's where I sit.
Cool. And then, so a bit of cat herding in addition to your particular gifts?
I don't really have to herd cats. The team is pretty incredible. The folks we have, they show up, they do work. I mean, we have a lot of civilians on our team, but they're generally, a little bit older, and they work really hard. And especially when you have a large remote team. We have some team that's based here in Portland with us, but for the most part, we have a very large assembly of remote folks. And for the most part, everybody gets their job done. There's no questions. We've had issues in the past. Those folks aren't with LifeFlip because, as much of a superhero as they claim to be, they ended up not working, right? Like doing their own thing. So you end up having to herd those people. It doesn't work out. I don't like micromanaging. Like, hey, just do your job. If you're getting paid, you should do your job. I think at the end of the day, that's just, I don't want to be an issue to anybody, so they should be an issue to me. When I was a consultant working independently, remotely, I once worked for a company that was based out of Israel. Talk about thousands of miles between you and your boss. You had to be able to work by yourself, get the job done. So I treat people the same way. Like, get the job done. You don't want to hear my voice. You don't want my mouth. Get your job done. So if I have to hurt it, but I still have to get it done, right? So the job still has to get done. You can't pawn it off to somebody else. So you get to get it done yourself. So that's why I, kind of lead from the front and do every job that's in there. Because the job still has to get done. So I'll do it myself.
Good deal. Fine. So kind of a trivia question here for you, bud, is what is something that most people don't know about you?
That's a good question. Things that they don't know about it. Crap. That's good. I don't know. Oh, I know what it is. I don't know. I really like musicals.
You like musicals?
I really dig them. I like musicals, like, Moulin Rouge, and I love going to Broadway shows. So Phantom of the Opera is one of my favorites. So that would be my hidden secret. You can walk on. We're not filming. Sorry.
So kind of as our winding out question here, it's something I reserve for you since you're a Marine. I had this question for all of my jarhead guests that come in. So this is just for you, buddy. Since you're in the Corps, if you were to be a new color of crayon, what would that color be? How would you describe it, and what would its flavor be like?
I would be a new crayon. Wow. It's interesting because orange is my favorite flavor. But since I have to create a new one, I would be, is it red? I don't know. I don't know. Like, I have to find a color, number one. I don't know, something off of like blue. Off blue. Like, I don't know, like sky blue a color. Like, the color that's outside my window right now. Like, I don't know. That color. What is the rest of it? This is tough. Don't ask Marines what color to be. This is difficult. Damn. Whole time I'm going, if I say blue, the Navy's going to be like, haha, you picked blue. No, it's not. They wear green camis anyways. They don't even know. They're not camouflage on their own ship now. I can see you behind the bush. Oh, shit. I would be some sort of blue. The flavor would taste like a blueberry. Yeah. And what was the other part of it? It was a 3-part question, and I've got 2 of them right so far.
Well, it was pretty much just a 2-parter. What would the color be? How would you describe the color? Because you kind of described it, and then what would what?
Like the sky, like the sky. I'm fascinated by. I don't know. It's probably another thing to answer the question you asked previously, which is things people don't know about me. But I'm a kind of a history geek, and I'm a huge geek of like planet Earth. I think when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. I grew up in Orlando, so we used to be able to see the space shuttle take off. So yeah. I think that's why I look into the sky, because I'm always amazed. It's like, damn, it's like pretty cool that like outside there's a whole lot of other stuff. We're just a small fish in a really, really big pond.
So
that's deep. I know, way too deep. Really grab you Marine. Weed to tea smoking, but yeah.
So what big things you got on your horizon where people can run into you?
Let's see. If you're going to Orlando next month, you can run into me at the Military Influencers Conference. I will be there. LifeFlip is doing all the media and video production, and I'm speaking on Tuesday. Looking forward to that. Cortez Riggs is just something awesome. It's our 2nd year. I was part of it last year. Proud to be a part of it again this year. And then I think I'm going to Clever Talks. Chris Soriano controls that. Chris, if you're listening, that's a subliminal hint to return a text message. No, I'm going to be there. And then I'm speaking. I have a keynote in San Diego October 30th. I'll be in San Diego, California. I have a keynote for a Veteran Business of the Year ceremony. It'll be pretty cool to get to present in San Diego. So I always love going to San Diego. I'll also be at Dreamforce right after Military Influencers Conference. So I'm excited for that. Oh, and in between all of that traveling, I'll be in beautiful San Antonio, Texas for the Jason's going to kill me the alcoholic beverage conference. I'm a judge with famous other judges like Charlinda Scales, and she's like my homie, so that's the one on the list. Charlinda will be there, and there's barbecue. Oh, and my boy Brian Jacobs will be there. I love that dude. Like, notice I always pick food. You can tell I'm a former fatty because I'm like, hey, the food people will be there. Brian Jacobs and Charlinda, they're 2 of my favorite people because they always post cool food. You post food on Facebook, I will show up. You could probably put a message in the food and I'd listen. Like, yes. So there's other people who are there. Go check it out. But that's where I'll be for the rest of 2018. I probably will not be traveling past. I don't like to travel in November because the holidays coming. Airports get crazy, and I don't like being around gigantic holiday crowds. And then I spend a lot of time with my family, and we close out the year. A lot of stuff going on in November, so you'll probably catch me between here in New York if I have to travel, honestly.